in their room and listen to the podcast actually learn quite a bit more than the people who attend lecture. And if you think about this for two reasons, it's very clear. If you think about TiVo and you're watching sports and you miss a play and you hit that 7-second skip back button on your TiVo. I mean, imagine being able to just skip back and catch what you missed in the lecture. You're taking notes, you missed that, you look up, it's gone. And you're not going to raise your hand in one of these 100-person seminar classes and stop the conversation and ask them to go back. And another thing we know about the way that students use iPods is they tend to listen to podcasts somewhere between 1.5 and 2 times normal speed. Now that may be because we speak like this in class. 1.5 times speed is like normal speed for a person. But when you listen to it 1.5 or 2 times speed, you tend to attend to it a little more. So if you're attending more and you can go back and listen to the things you missed a second, a third, or fourth time, it shouldn't surprise us that those students that have the bookified version of the course tend to do a little bit better. But this on-campus, off-campus dichotomy that we talk about online and on campus, in terms of the way we use media, I think is sort of a false dichotomy. I think we can have our cake and eat it too, despite what I said earlier about the difference in strategies with the polo parable. Now, when I say that things are changing but education is lagging behind, one way you might be tempted to respond is, well, that's great, but we're education. I mean, you got to have a college degree to get a job, so really, who cares? Where are they going to go? Why do we need to respond to that? Because historically, we really have had a monopoly position in terms of providing access to the kinds of education and the kinds of credentials that get students better employment, to get them any employment at all in some fields. But this monopoly that we've enjoyed is really being pressed hard in a variety of ways. If you think about why students come to the university, I think they come for at least 4 reasons. I'm sure there are more reasons than the ones on this list. But they do come for access to content, whether that content is teaching materials, the textbooks and the notes and things that you put together and provide to them. But they also come for research, the access to the books in the library and the journals and those collections of databases. They come for access to support services because you and I both know that there's no textbook around that as you're reading through it, at some point you don't have a question. That you want to turn to another human being and say, I've read this 3 times now, I still don't get it. Can you explain to me what this means? Or they want to know which course they should take first, what sequence they should do things, and they need these kinds of support. Obviously, social life is a huge reason that people come to university. And then they want to earn a degree. They want this credential that gets them a job, that is some third party, supposedly objective third parties, guarantee to the employer that, yes, this person does know the things that they claim to know. So if we look at these one at a time, if you think about content and the access to content that students gain by coming to the university, and you look around at things like MIT OpenCourseWare, at things like the Public Library of Science or archive.org, Google Scholar, there are a variety of places that students can go these days where they can get free and open access to really high quality, either instructional content or research content. They don't have to come to us anymore for that. If you think about support services in terms of a student getting their question answered, there are a dozen places that they can go, dozens of places they can go to do this as well. If you've never used Cha-Cha, it's absolutely brilliant. You just take out your phone and you text message a question to the Cha-Cha number, and 60 or so seconds later, some person using Google and some array of tools in a back room somewhere has found the answer to your question and texted it back to you at no cost to you. So go ahead and get your cell phones out and do it. I know you're going to do it. Don't hide them under the table. Just pull them out and try it. Yahoo Answers, I assume most of you have seen before, a board where you can go ask a question and people compete to provide the best answer, and they do like 1 million questions and answers a year. There's some really great research in 2007 out of the University of Maine about Rate My Professor that professors tend to hate, but it turns out that the data on ratemyprofessor.com, when compared to the smiley sheets that students fill out at the end of course, actually correlates at around 0.65, 0.7 level. So you can actually make, as a student, if you want to know who's easy, who's hard, who's understandable, and especially, the little chili pepper, who's hot, who do you want to take class from? Rate My Professor is actually a pretty reliable source of data for this. And we could mention Twitter as well. So social life almost goes without saying. I'll just say Facebook, I'll say MySpace. Dana will tell us more about social networks later in the day. But then degrees. You might think, well, there might be places they can go for content. Well, there might be people they can ask their questions to. Well, there might be places they can meet other people and socialize, but we have the degrees. Well, it turns out that there are places that people can go and other kinds of things they can get than an undergraduate degree, particularly the examples here in the technical area. So if you are a Microsoft certified systems engineer, or a Red Hat certified engineer, or a Cisco certified network administrator, if you have one of these credentials and you're competing for a network administrator job versus somebody with a bachelor's in computer science, guess what? You're going to get the job, because these credentials are more valuable in that particular kind of employment. And there are other areas emerging that we could talk about where there are credentials that compete either well or better than, they compete very well with undergraduate degrees. We don't have a monopoly in this area anymore either. So, to wrap this all up, everything that we provide as a university is being provided by someone else. This wasn't the case before. And it tends to be the case that when institutions specialize on just really getting your questions and answering them, or just providing you with access to research content or something, that when the institution specializes, it tends to do a better job than the generalist in terms of quality, and it also tends to be able to provide that service at a lower cost, because that's all they do. They really focus and they hone in. Now, higher education, on the other hand, has had an average tuition increase in cost of like 76% over the last 10 years. And in terms of our quality, if you haven't seen this video of